Middletown, Ohio, a proud city full and rich of history. As you travel the city today, you can see the history all around, from the buildings to the canal and to the street signs named after significant people who are responsible for building the foundation of our city. In the 1800s, Middle America was an important and productive part of our nation, and the area known as Middletown was no different. Middletown was considered to be a wealthy and vibrant area. Many people and business owners looked to move their families and start a business in this thriving new community. Roads were developed that connected Middletown to Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Germantown. On July 21, 1825, groundbreaking in Middletown for the canal would take place. The canal would carry passengers and freight from city to city. The Miami-Erie Canal opened in 1828, connecting Middletown to the Ohio River. By the year 1845, the waterway ran north to Lake Erie. The canal also served as a great location for industry to succeed. Businesses like the Sebald Brewery, Auer, and Sorg Tobacco Company, and the American Rolling Mill Company, also known as Armco, would establish their business along the canal. Paper mills, pork farms, and slaughterhouses were sprouting up, and many other businesses in the area that made Middletown strong. Multiple railroads saw growing opportunities for transportation to the area, and much competition was to be had. Today, you can still see the used rails built near the old canal. On February 11, 1833, the Ohio General Assembly incorporated the area known as Middletown, and in 1886, it became a city. With Middletown becoming a growing, vibrant, and important area, the need for a fire department was realized. In 1848, a volunteer fire company was started. 130 men served as volunteers. Prior to the volunteer company, homes were required by law to have a leather fire bucket, often kept behind the front door. When the cries of fire were heard, all the men between the ages of 16 and 50 were required to grab their bucket and join a bucket brigade. These buckets were identified to each house by the markings of a simple address or a family crest on the bucket. In 1837, the village of Middletown appropriated $75 to purchase ladders to be used for firefighting. This is the first known money to be used towards the fire service. A short time later, the first fire apparatus, a wagon, used to carry these ladders, was acquired. It was known as the John B. Titus. In 1848, the citizens got together and insisted that a steam engine be purchased to assist in firefighting. The village would not purchase the engine, so it was up to the citizens to have bonds drawn up and purchase the steam engine. For $500 with interest, a Pat Lyons steam engine was purchased from the Cincinnati Fire Department. In addition, 1,000 feet of hose had to be purchased when they discovered that the steam engine came with no hose. It was at that time the village assembled a 130-member volunteer fire company. As the area grew, so did the need for a more permanent fire department. On June 23, 1882, the Middletown Fire Department was officially adopted. The department moved into the brand-new building located at 23 Broadway Street. The city parking garage now stands there. The department served a town of about 9,000 to 10,000 people. They used runners to help supplement the firefighters. The first fire chief on record is Chief Alexander Hill. During this time period, fire chiefs were appointed to the position for a 2-year term. Over the next 38 years, fire chiefs came and went, and records indicated that they would change with the city's administration. Some of the names of the chiefs would include John Oglesby and George Sebald. The newly formed fire department would share their quarters with the police and city administration. The bell, which sat on top of Station 1 to call firefighters to their alarms, now makes its home at our current headquarters, 2300 Roosevelt Boulevard, on the front lawn to welcome the firefighters and visitors of today. In 1886, horse-drawn apparatus came on the scene. Prior to this, wagons and the steam engine were pulled by hand. The horses served the firemen well until 1914, when the first motorized fire engine was placed into service. The final run with horses was made in 1917. It is unclear as to what replaced the horses that pulled the Babcock Ariel, but it may have been some sort of tractor that was retrofitted. The Babcock aerial was replaced in 1931 by an 85-foot Aaron's Fox ladder truck, seen here, against the P. Lorillard Tobacco Company. To better meet the needs of a growing city, Station No. 2 on Crawford Street was built. The building was erected in 1897, but was not occupied by the fire department until 1902. Staffing was on the rise as runners were being replaced by full-time firefighters and equipment was being added to the fleet. Firefighters during this time would receive 24 hours off a month. In 1914, a fireman's pension fund was established, and firefighters were given 24 hours off a week. In the same year, Middletown Fire Department received 2 motorized Seagrave combination and chemical fire engines. The department also had a Rio automobile for the chief's car, shown here in the middle. In 1920, Elmer Reed became fire chief and would lead the growth of the Middletown Fire Department for the next 24 years. In his tenure, he would become known as an authority on paper mill fires. Under his watch, many advancements were made. In 1922, the department took receipt of an Aaron's Fox pumper, followed by another in 1924, which was placed at Station 2 on Crawford Street. In 1930, the city of Middletown was 4.5 square miles, and uniformed personnel were increased from 19 men to 32 men. On December 13, 1930, a third firehouse was opened at the corner of Yankee and Yonge Street, where a new Aaron's Fox quad pumper was placed. 2 months later, an Aaron's Fox 85-foot ladder was placed in service at Station 1, replacing the previously horse-drawn Babcock ladder of 1890. The most serious fire of 1932 was the F.O. Diver Milling Company. The fire threatened to become a major conflagration, and Chief Reed credited the new aerial ladder for much of its containment. The firefighters saw a need to become organized under the International Association of Firefighters, a union labor organization. On June 27, 1932, they became known as Middletown Firefighters Association Local 336. Here's a picture of some early dignitaries in the IAFF. The man third from the left is Steve McHugh, the earliest known president of Local 336. Standing to his left is the president of the International, Fred Bauer. It should also be noted that the gentleman on the far left is Robert Lukens. He is a Middletown fireman that is credited with starting the OAPFF, the Ohio Association of Professional Firefighters. This is what gives Middletown Firefighters Association the right to call itself the birthplace of the OAPFF. At the time this picture was taken, Mr. Lukens was the president of the OAPFF. He continued to serve on the board of the OAPFF and continued his career with the Local 336, making his way to Assistant Fire Chief. In 1954, Assistant Chief Lukens represented Middletown and the United States, along with 7 other dignitaries from across the country, traveling to Germany. There they would study and exchange information on the differences between American and European ways of fighting fire. They also learned lessons of what could be done when bombings happened and vital information on civil defense. Chief Lukens also served on a training committee for the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association. Other early Local 336 presidents included Robert Bell and Gerald Horn. Throughout the 1930s, the department had its share of fires. Many lives were lost, but fortunately, many were saved due to the response of the fire department. Commercial business fires, including the Armco Research Laboratory explosion and the Western Auto Associates store fire, are 2 examples of large fire loss. Chimney fires were a common cause of residential losses. August 17, 1939 was a busy day for the men when 4 house fires were answered within 15 hours. During the 1930s, the Division of Fire was providing emergency medical services to the public and relied upon the local funeral homes to transport patients to the hospital in their hearses. In 1938, the first resuscitator was bought. A new decade for the department brought new challenges as World War II was approaching and fires continued to be very active in Middletown. The Sorg paper mill fire would become a fire to be remembered for decades to come. At 3:30 p.m. October 6, 1940, the same day as Game 5 of the World Series between the Cincinnati Reds and the Detroit Tigers, fire broke out at the Sorg paper mill. The fire took 24 hours to bring under control. 35 firemen were transported to the hospital for smoke inhalation and injuries. 22 remained hospitalized. To ease the burden of the overtaxed hospital, doctors and nurses came to a makeshift rehab area where an additional 35 firemen and other volunteers were treated. Chief Elmer Reed was one of 22 men that remained hospitalized. As World War II approached, men from the fire department were enlisted or drafted to fight for our country. With the men gone to war, an auxiliary group was formed known as Box 45. They were formed under the Middletown Civil Defense, which resulted from the National Defense Program. They were used to augment the fire department and were trained in civil defense procedures. A women's auxiliary unit was also formed later. Local 336 did their part to help in the war efforts. Here you can see where they collected rubber tires to be recycled for the war effort. Today, we still support our troops by sending more care packages to our men and women in the armed forces. In December 1943, the Caskey family on Catalpa Drive suffered a devastating fire. Ellen, age 7, was at home watching her 2 siblings, Sandra, 5, and Danny, 18 months, when fire broke out. Ellen got her brother and sister out and summoned the fire department from a neighbor's home. She is considered a hero. Members of the department felt extremely sorrowful for the family at Christmas and wanted to do something special. Every member contributed money, and merchants donated items of necessity. Jack Clark, Mark Light, and Mylan Alexander dressed as Santa Claus and his helpers. They arrived in a fire truck to deliver clothes, toys, food, and $50 in the form of a bow around the neck of a live turkey. Needless to say, the family was overwhelmed. Continuing to spread the Yuletide cheer the following year, Christmas caroling was begun. Firemen and others joined together, made floats, and traveled on buses to bring the sounds of Christmas to the elderly, the hospitalized, and the shut-ins. Unfortunately, with the rising popularity, it became too expensive to reach all requests. The annual Firemen's Ball was started in 1955 to offset these costs and to help underprivileged children. This tradition continues today, and in February, Local 336 will celebrate its 53rd annual ball.
Dear firefighters, I have received your letter concerning plans for the Christmas festivity in Middletown, and in answering I find it very difficult. I know not where to start, for my heart is so full of the deepest appreciation to the firemen, the city as a whole, and the dearest of friends there who helped us through those tragic days when everything we had worked years for had been swept away in such a very few minutes. The firemen will always have a special place in our hearts, and if out of our misfortune they have been able to start a tradition, I hope and pray sincerely it will survive through the years to come. We feel so humble and so grateful each and every Christmas as we remember and give thanks to God for giving Ellen the cool presence of mind which prevented a greater tragedy. The honor bestowed upon her is received by her and us very humbly and gratefully. Thank you, the Caskey family.
Middletown Fire Department is steeped with tradition, thanks in large part to our brothers who taught us to be proud of and take care of our community. This tradition started with the Caskey House Fire and continues today with our annual golf outing, winter dance, Christmas caroling, and shopper shuttle, just to name a few. As for the job of firefighting, we are called every day to help people. The help may be as simple as changing a battery in a smoke detector, helping a family member off the floor, or an event as serious as a cardiac arrest or devastating house fire. We respond. We help. We serve. We are your division of fire. We are Local 336.